Really, really bad at introducing myself. I always forget it, but hey, here we are. Noe Mandel, Director of Scottish Documentary Institute, and a year on, still online, but delighted that, we are, still online at least. And we've been really encouraged by people attending and the different events that we've been getting. So there's no turning back on this kind of online business and online gatherings. But there is also no turning back on the campaign, the 50-50 campaign that we launched kind of last year, in order to deal with a few dramatic facts that we came across. So why did we start a campaign? Well, at SDI, who basically we are, there's no point in hiding it, kind of hardcore, kind of feminists, kind of, fighting for women's rights, kind of, not just in our industry, but in our lives. And when we came across kind of, the data about female directors, we were really gutted. So how can we kind of, we've spent our lives fighting for women's rights, fighting for women to be in our industry, and yet the data tells us that only 16% of women are directing feature-length documentaries. That was just so shocking that, we had to do something about it. So finding more kind of, about those statistics kind of, was really important. But also, whoop, my phone just broke. Sorry. Just a sliding phone on the ground. Yes, so I mean, the statistics kind of, need to change. And we decided to give ourselves kind of, a date by 2025. We will reach kind of the 50%. Maria later on is going to tell us a bit more about data, and we are kind of, shifting kind of upwards. So that's kind of, the good news. But we still need to make sure kind of, that we don't just kind of, do this campaign in order to increase kind of, the facts and figures, but very much to create a true kind of genuine access for women to come into our industry. Why do we need that? How are we going to manage? I mean, that's kind of, an ongoing debate. But we know that, for the time being, the access is much easier for male directors than it is for female directors. Women go on working with smaller budgets. So whenever we're dealing with low budgets, you'll find women there. Go beyond that and it's much harder. But also women, for all kind of array of reasons, kind of tend to give up after kind of, their first or even their second kind of, feature documentary. Making a third and a fourth kind of, becomes a real kind of upheaval. So we've got to create new opportunities. We've got to increase kind of, women's confidence, but we've got to shift also our way of thinking about filmmaking and shifting kind of how our industry works in order to accommodate kind of, what women need in order to be there. For those of you who were with us on Friday, listening to Chilean filmmaker Meite, kind of talking about her career as a woman. Once again, I mean, she was saying that in the context of Chile, kind of, she's done okay, but then, she's working with fairly kind of low budgets. So women can do okay as long as kind of the budgets are kind of low enough. Let's not take too many risks on women. That's basically the message that we are getting. But we do want to take risks on women. And we need to take risks on women, otherwise we'll never achieve the diversity and the inclusion that is now becoming so nicely fashionable, kind of, amongst kind of, so many different areas. We truly believe we need the women to be there with us. And not just kind of, a certain type of women. We want women from across kind of, different backgrounds. And that's why we are campaigning, making sure that those women that we haven't discovered yet will actually discover us before we even maybe discover them. But if not, when we do discover them, to be there and support them and help them to kind of, move on kind of with their career and make sure that we are sitting in front of our TVs, in front of our screens, in our cinemas, watching different stories which are so inspiring, which makes our world kind of, the world that we need in order to face pandemics the way we've been kind of facing the last 12 months. So that's why we are doing it, and the energy is there, and we'll go on kind of to 2025 in order to get our 50%, but I'm sure kind of beyond that in order to create more opportunities for women. So I know you love data, and for that, I'm going to pass on Maria, who's so much better at data than I am.
Oh, hello everyone. Sorry. It's funny how so much stuff comes back to data, just to know where you're starting from and where you want to be. I'm going to share my screen actually because I need a bit of PowerPoint support to keep me right on this one. So just bear with me a moment. Okay. Give me a nod if you can see that okay.
Yeah,
cool. Okay, so just following on from Noe there. So we launched the campaign in November 2019, and where we've been and what we've learned since then. I mean, the first thing is that it's a really patchy data landscape. I think it always is in a way, especially when it comes to diversity, because people are nervous about collecting diversity data. But also once you start narrowing down, once you start saying we're looking at documentaries in production, we're looking at directors, and we're looking at the diversity of those directors, it starts to show where the gaps are. So as I've said there, we're hungry for all this data to understand what's going on for women in the industry, especially in Scotland. And there was a raft of really good reports that came out sort of 2016 to 2018, which really, it demonstrated really what SDI knew, which is that actually men and women enter into the industry in equal numbers, and then women start to fall away as they try to progress. So you can see it with those who direct short films. We do slightly better in Scotland, it would appear, than in England. So slightly fewer women than men directing short films, far fewer women directing features, and, hardly any women get into their third or fourth feature documentary. So that's what those reports showed back then. But in terms of us being able to track what's happening in real time, really, or even just year on year, we have been able to get some information from BFI, from Screen Scotland, and by looking at our own schemes as well, by looking at the applicants to them. But there's often a lack of information on who the directors are, and no one's really, recording directors by their gender. So we're having to pull that information together. There's two of the reports I mentioned there. Directors UK and Creative Scotland as well did two really insightful reports actually showing the career trajectory for women. But we just can't keep on top of that information because no one's really collecting it. No one's really interested in that picture, apart from us at the moment. And also, really importantly, when it comes to money and who's accessing grants, we can see from mostly we can see the picture from Screen Scotland of who's successful in accessing grants. We can't see for all of them how much is being given to male-led films or female-led films or non-gender conforming directors. We can't see their rates of success or failure when it comes to applying for funds. So we can't see where the weaknesses are for women in there. And because the funding is so important, I think that's a really, really big gap that we need to address. So that's that one. So that's Yeah, but there is good news, kind of, in that we recently looked at the data again, so for the last 2 years, and it looks like around now 30% of Scottish feature docs in production, either early or mid or post, are being directed by women. So that is an improvement. The amount of funding that goes to them seems to be less, but as I say, it's kind of hard to get that information. And so, now we do need to do more, I think, to make sure women can access all the things that they've been missing, really, in developing their careers. So that is equal access to funds, role models, inclusive work patterns, and support networks. And that's me. Over to Alex now, who's going to talk. So New Voices was the first initiative we created as part, sitting under the umbrella of the campaign, and that was especially for female and non-binary documentary directors. But Alex can tell us more about that.
Thank you, Maria, and hello, everyone. Really delighted to be here and talk a little bit about New Voices, and which has been, I think, so inspiring and aspirational, especially during the past year or so. So I've been really excited to be part of it and to help coordinate this new program, which was kind of new for us, and also a new kind of project. A scheme, I think, that was the first scheme specifically for female and non-binary documentary filmmakers in the UK. We've seen some other schemes popping up later, which I think is a great development, and we should have more of these supporting women and non-binary filmmakers. But New Voices, I think, is a really unique program because it brings together this career coaching and personal development element with professional development through mentorship with an experienced filmmaker, and also the industry sessions in a group setting. And it's taken place over 6 months, and it is designed to build confidence, improve pitching and negotiation skills, industry knowledge, and also connect women and non-binary filmmakers with each other and with other professionals working in the industry. So far, we've had 79 applications in total, and we're able to select 19 participants across 2 rounds. And it's just been a privilege to hear from so many highly talented and diverse directors, producers as well, working in Scotland. It made us realize that there are so many talented women who are facing barriers every day, and that there is so much knowledge amongst them. And it would just be so great if all this could be kind of shared and exchanged and put together. So yeah, well, we also hope the program was open and accessible to everyone to apply, and to bring in a bit of data as well. Of those who filled in the equalities form, we've had 25% non-white people who applied, 7% with a disability, and 32% who identified as gay or bisexual. Yeah, moving on to the next slide, we some of the common issues that emerged from the applications. There was this kind of general lack of confidence, lack of connections, and of a support network. Also, kind of very widespread experience of racism or sexism or ableism, and feeling that you're always operating at the fringes of the industry or having to work other jobs to support themselves. There were also many instances where the applicants were not sure how to progress their careers, especially if they had planned to have children, already had children. And at the same time, there were also all these kind of aspirations and motivations to work with other women to make films which represented their communities across geographical, cultural, or shared lived experience. So I think after having almost wrapping up this, the first edition of the program, and we're just about to start the second round next week, actually, it seems that for the participants, it has been transformational and helpful for them and their films. They have felt that they've become more confident, learning how to pitch successfully, actually getting some projects commissioned throughout the program. So having the kind of tools and confidence to assert that into work. We also had a participant who now has a producer on board, so to push forward a film that has stalled, has been paused for a while. Also, I think learning to celebrate the everyday wins. I've heard that from participants. And also setting up goals and pursuing them. And I'd just like to pick up from one of the feedback from the participants who said that the program helped them pin down dreams and break them into attainable steps and goals, which I think summarizes this kind of process really nicely, that the journey that many of the participants went through this program of making that step and that leap between having a dream that may seem attainable and actually realizing it and making a look that is very possible and very much attainable. And I think above all else, over the past 6 months, New Voices has become a very tight group that is driven by support and solidarity, and that I really hope that will continue. And as I've said, New Voices is just the beginning and is one of the initiatives that are part of this much wider effort towards supporting women making documentary films. And I'm really excited for the projects that are coming out of this as well. So I think that's me.
Great. Yeah, I mean, New Voices is really, really exciting as a schema. And if we've got to think about kind of what we've learned from the last kind of 18 months of running this campaign or being involved with it, I think New Voices is probably the biggest lesson of all, in terms of we do need to create safe spaces for women to thrive. And it's the only way forward to create that sense that women can grow their confidence in order to be the filmmakers that they need to be and that we want them kind of to be. So finding ways of supporting women through specific schemes is definitely kind of a way forward, and it helps kind of developing the numbers, the data that we so want to increase in order to make sure that all kind of underrepresented filmmakers come on board and be there in our industry. So that's kind of one thing that we've learned. Another thing, of course, is that data does matter. It's really painful and tedious kind of collecting it, but it's the only way for us to really measure kind of where we're at, but also to forces us to to ask questions to how come women are not kind of being financed. Those type of questions kind of need kind of to be raised. If we don't have the data to back us up, then we can't kind of raise those questions. We also discovered while collecting all this data and talking to more women, that when basically women are in a creative kind of control situation, then the gender balance kind of shifts. Women help other women, and it's something that we can't rely on, but it definitely is there, and definitely creating more opportunities for other women is kind of another way to go forward. So those are three things which we've learned in the last few months, and we planning to kind of build a bit more on it, aren't we, kind of, Maria?
We are. Okay. So where are we going next? So absolutely, I think we're doing everything we can as an organization now to to support more women in a really tailored way, but we need the rest of the industry really to step up now. And so what we're going to be doing later in the year is asking for pledges from people and organisations, asking them to pledge to 50-50 plus in our case, so if they want to include non-binary filmmakers in there as well, but somehow commit to having some gender parity within their work, whether they are employing or creating internships or funders, or training, or even if they want to support the campaign through fundraising as well. So that could be individuals who crew up, you know, or it could be organisations as well. So we're kind of in the process of formulating some of these ways that the industry can commit to some, you know, some of its own actions towards gender equality. If you've got any ideas, please do get in touch. You know, we're always open to hearing, you know, even if you think about how you might do it. You know, if you're a freelancer that works with others, or if you do employ people as well. And then hopefully in the next year or two, and obviously this is funding dependent, but we would really like to launch the Grierson Sisters Fund, which would be a grant fund for women directing feature-length documentaries. You know, that's the sort of thing that could either take years or it could happen very quickly, depending on who we're speaking to. But, you know, because the funding is so key to getting these films made, and because women need, you know, they need to develop their practice as well. So they need access to more funds in order to develop their filmmaking and to show us what they're really capable of, in the same way that men do as well. So yes, the Grierson Sisters Fund is a big ambition of ours, and don't worry, we'll let you all know once we get that off the ground. And then, right, excuse the picture of me on there. I just thought it would be mean to use a profile from someone else without telling them. So to launch in a few weeks is our Women Directory. So we are asking people, so the directory isn't launched yet. It's not kind of live and available to everybody just now, but we're testing it. We're collecting profiles. If you want to sign up, I can send you the link, or the link is there as well. Or if someone's able to put it in the chat for me, that would be great as well. So yeah, so this is a directory of female non-binary documentary filmmakers based in Scotland. So we have this talent pool. So no one any longer has the excuse of not being able to find female documentary filmmakers to work with. And so yeah, it's sort of in testing phase at the moment, but it's pretty much there. And in a few weeks, we'll make that live for everybody to see. So this is just the little tile that appears in amongst everybody else's tile. A little picture of me there with some information on it. And then you have the full profile as well. I've just filled it mainly with fictional or SDI information since I'm not a filmmaker. But this is essentially what your profile ends up looking like, and you can put as many links into your story as you like. You can link it to your social media accounts. Hopefully it's flexible. I can see people have been testing it already, which is brilliant. Thank you to those who've put their profiles in already. But yeah, just start filling it out. It'd be great to get a lot of profiles on there ahead of the launch, so that when we do make it public, it's got lots of women non-binary filmmakers in there already. And I think that's me. That's us. That's the presentation over and done with. So I'll stop sharing.
So I think the next step of trying to set up a fund is something that we've talked about at SDI for many years now. But in a way, we're hoping that with this 50-50 campaign, we will start kind of attracting kind of some money to put into that fund. So anyone who knows people with money would like to support kind of a female fund, do push them kind of our way. But it is obvious through all the data that been presented that we need more money in order for women to carry on working, while women are still in charge of families and caring for other people in our society. If we want them as filmmakers, then we'll need kind of backup, kind of help, kind of to keep them at work. So that means increasing budgets. That means going somewhere and asking for that funding. Um, so we'll work on that. Any comments? Any questions? You're very welcome.
I was just going to jump in to say I can't see everybody's screens from the view that I've got here. So if anyone does want to shout out a question, then please do that, because I won't necessarily see you. But just to say, over on Facebook, we've had a couple of comments. Sangeeta, who is part of New Voices, has made a comment just saying it's been a life-changing for her, New Voices. And my fantastic mentor, Mary Bell, and our brilliant career coach, Viana Maya, have been instrumental in planning the future path of my filmmaking career. I'm so grateful to the SDI 50/50 Women Direct for thinking of this project for people like me. So that's a nice comment. Thanks, Sangeeta. And also there's a comment on there from Callum S. Mackay, who says, many employers love being able to put the real living wage stickers on their window or website, maybe suggesting that if employers are willing to commit and show a realistic plan to achieve 50/50 plus, you could follow a similar scheme to the RLW. So there's an idea. Thanks for that, Callum. So yeah, that's just a couple of things from Facebook. But if anyone here has any questions or comments, let us know.
Well, as we've heard, I mean, BBC Scotland is, well, I think BBC in general kind of, is committing to 20% diversity in front and behind the camera. It's a start. I think people need to start pledging kind of, more and more, and try to commit to kind of, to what they're pledging. Only that way are we going to move forward. I mean, we've seen that in other countries, like, in Sweden, for example, they had to have kind of, quotas in order to radically kind of, lift the number of female filmmakers. So we're just going to have to bite the bullet and go through the same. I mean, we can be polite about it, but at the end of the day, we need to be pushed. We need to move out of our comfort zone in order to shift kind of the landscape that right now is not a nice one.
I think the BFI had a really interesting little quote and infographics that came out a couple of years ago that said the film industry is as male and white as it was 100 years ago. So it's not going to shift on its own. Definitely not.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I just wondered, Alex, you mentioned a bit about, some of the sort of findings from New Voices, or some of the things that have some of your bullet points, but, is there anything else there that you have particularly picked up, or any suggestions you've got for, for other people who maybe in the future are thinking about hopefully applying for New Voices, or, is there any kind of anything that's really surprised you maybe?
I think one of the things that emerged from across all the applications was this kind of need for a place, a space, a platform where they could just find out about each other. Women filmmakers and directors and producers could find out about each other and just kind of be in touch and find ways to support themselves, support kind of each other, and share experiences. And that's why I think the directory is a really great step. And we actually had some people who applied who also suggested that or asked about this. And it's really great that a few months in we can make these first steps towards that, towards having that directory. And yeah, it would be great actually to hear from people joining us here or on Facebook what would be other ways of making that possible. What would be the easiest ways in facilitating that, whether it's through directory, if there are any other platforms that we could try or see how they would work, because I think that's something that was perhaps missing, just having that knowledge of who else is there and how we can all be in touch with each other.
I mean, that connection is really important, Alex, because New Voices is great, but it's not going to solve kind of, everyone's problem. I mean, it may be transformational, but it's not going to be just the solution. Probably, you would need to go several times kind of through New Voices to keep kind of, going up the ladder. At this stage, we don't have kind of, several kind of, steps, but nevertheless, finding a way of keeping women connected would mean that it would be a lot easier to come and ask the question that you need to ask, because you know more kind of who you should go to. So that sense of kind of community developed through New Voices is probably kind of, the best lesson of all, really.
Yeah, and I also, not to put Maria on the spot here, but I just think the directory is a really exciting thing, and of course it is brand new. We've not really even officially launched it, and you have spoken a bit about it. But I just wondered, is there any more you can say about that, and maybe kind of what your ambitions are, or even Noe, or but what are your sort of ambitions for that? And is it something that in the past maybe you have wanted to have and you're like, I just can't, it just doesn't exist, so we need it?
I mean, we at SDI get quite a lot of emails saying, I'm looking for a female, editor, producer who specializes in this, and that. And so there's a growing desire out there for people to find female talent and to support female talent. So it makes sense to have a place actually where where everyone, if we can, get as many filmmakers listed as possible, so that it's not us kind of just emailing the people who are on our database that we know for definite are in Scotland, and we know for definite what type of work they do. So it just makes those opportunities. Well, it just means that people can go and look amongst a talent pool. So it does feel like a natural place to have them. And also, I think you hear the excuse of I don't know any female filmmakers, I don't know where to find them. Often enough that you just think, right, okay, enough. So yeah, it just seems like a logical next step, really. And it's great for us to be connected in to so many women and non-binary filmmakers as well.
But it may also encourage other women to to go into specific areas of filmmaking. They would think, I don't want to do sound recording, but because that's more kind of, like a men area. But by seeing kind of, other women doing it, it will encourage more. And that really is important. I mean, I remember the days when I was looking for a female gaffer, and you couldn't get them because only two in the UK. And both kind of, were busy kind of, working abroad. And yet I needed a female gaffer for the production that I was doing. So, we need more. That's definitely. But we also need to get to know where we can get them.
Yeah. And I think also, we're really conscious that quite often you know, especially aspiring directors are pushed into producing over and over and over again. And this seems to be really common within TV as well, where it's like, well, just do this, you know, you be producer on this and you just show us what you can do. And then next time you'll direct, and there's never that next time. So within the biog section of the directory, well, you can choose different areas of filmmaking that you work in. But in the biog as well, you can explain that maybe, you know, you've got all this production experience and a little bit of editing, but actually you'd like to develop on your editing. So there's at least a way for women to pivot towards what they really want to do, rather than feeling always directed into producing. And don't get me wrong, producers are amazing. What a job. I mean, honestly. So yeah, so that's another, you know, it gives women the space to do that, I think.
Yeah, and I can see Charlotte has got her virtual hand up there.
Hello. Yeah, first of all, I have to say a big thank you for having me on New Voices as well, because as Sangeeta said, it's just transformational having that group of women and that opportunity to develop yourself. Yeah, it's been really fantastic. But I wondered, I guess through New Voices and lockdown and all of this, I'm in the privileged position of working in documentary and not having to juggle the second job or childcare and things like that. And obviously, like, whether how equal society should be, how equal these responsibilities should be, you know, I think it would be ridiculous to not acknowledge that the household work and the childcare work often falls on women. So I wondered what sort of conversation there was happening about how we address some of that. I know a mutual director friend of ours who had said that she puts in the budgets to, you know, hire the male partner so that the female can, you know, he'll do the childcare, but it will be like a job role in the budget, and then the woman can go on and direct. You know, there's so many just practical things that don't work if you're the primary childcare person. And yeah, I wonder how we can start to shift the ideas of budgets, that this is something that should be recognized and acceptable and expected. You know, you're saying women have to work with smaller budgets and there's a whole other cost, and why should it fall on the female director's shoulders to figure that out? But, you know, to ignore it, I think, is just to ignore a real big stumbling block that a lot of women find themselves up against. So I don't know if you've been having many conversations about how we work around that. When I started out, I remember thinking, oh, well, I'm not going to go down this route and do this in TV and do this in film, because the hours just mean if I want to have kids, it's just not going to happen. You know, I made that assumption at 22, and I tailored my career as I went forward, and I still don't have children now at 33, but like I was thinking that all that time ago. So yeah. Any thoughts?
Well, I mean, the first thing I would say that, you know, the more women there are in the industry, the more they tailor the work patterns to and the budgets to be able to create space for other women to come through. So they'll find other ways of working. So that, you know, this is partly why we're so keen on this idea of connecting women with other women, because they can give them a foot up into the industry, and the more women there are, the changes ripple outwards. But in terms of budgets, I don't know. I mean, it's for a discussion, I expect, with Screen Scotland as well, isn't it, Noe?
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, it's got to be an accepted line in a budget. And of course, people always say, well, yes, there's no problem. But the minute you increase the budget because of that extra line, that's when kind of, you know, you get into trouble. But we really need to push that. I mean, you know, we need to push it because we are women, but you know, it's the same for, it will be the same for any parent, kind of, you know, eventually. But we also need to talk about different hours. We need to talk about maybe different ways of collaborating on a production, which doesn't fall just on one person, in order, yeah, to make sure that all women can be involved.
And we definitely would, Charlotte, with the Grierson Sisters Fund. You know, that's the way we're thinking of it at the moment, is that it would be designed to be deliberately flexible and able to be used on any costs that are a barrier, you know, that are to help women overcome barriers and to enable them to do the work they need to do on their film. So, you know, maybe instead of focusing on film, on the kind of, a grant for production, it becomes a grant for that filmmaker to use flexibly in order to allow them to do the work. And so that, you know, that could be things like childcare, travel costs. You know, it's just more flexible than saying this is production funding.
Yeah, because then you end up in this sort of tug of war about how do I get the most bang for my buck. You know, everybody has an expectation of what they're going to see for the money that they put in, and that's difficult. I know a lot of people stepped up and put in extra money for coronavirus PPE and things like this, so you know it's there and you know it can be done. Yeah, and hopefully that, you know, the ship can change direction. Thank you.
I mean, before this meeting, I was talking to Creative UK, kind of, and they're about to kind of, I think in April, they're going to be launching a new fund, basically, but they, in order to help kind of diverse kind of filmmakers to set up kind of, you know, their own companies. Great, but one, it's a loan, which is always a bad sign, and B, I mean, it's really to try to get more people to set up companies to work kind of, you know, with television. And it's not going to really kind of help women to establish themselves in in the industry, really. So I think, you know, we need to point the finger at kind of, you know, what they're planning to do with that money, and rethink how they're going to go about it if they're seriously talking about diverse filmmakers, kind of, you know, making the most out of that new fund.
I'm very excited for the directory, though.
Yes.
Because if you remember, year after year, I've been pestering Flora, especially, going, how do I meet? Because it's difficult as someone who's a producer to meet filmmakers, you know, if you didn't go through ECA or something like that. Just how do I meet any filmmakers, let alone just the female ones? So to have everybody there together is going to be a fantastic resource. You know, I spent years going through Film Bang if I wanted to find runners and things like this, but people tailored to documentary in all different roles is going to be great. So yeah, fantastic that you're doing it.
I mean, we did toy with, yeah, well, we were thinking about whether we do create a network group somewhere on social media, and we're still struggling with that one, actually, because there are so many not quite women in documentary and Scotland, but, you know, there's women in film and TV, might even be in Scotland, you know, there's a group, there's a Facebook group there, and there's a Scottish documentary Facebook group as well, and it's like, well, gosh, you know, it just feels like we would be poaching people from other places, and filmmakers would have like 10 different groups that they're part of across social media. So I don't know what you think about that. I don't know whether we need a space specifically for women making documentaries in Scotland where, you know, it is just a private social media group and people exchange ideas and opportunities and just support each other. I don't know whether you feel we need that. Charlotte, what do you think?
I know what you mean. There's so many of those groups. I think I've only just been invited along to one of them like this week, and I didn't even notice it was there because there are so many. The directory is great because, I mean, you know, sort of through Edinburgh Film Office and Film Bang, you know, I've had various approaches for jobs throughout my career, and as somebody in my position who'd be production managing and producing, it's a great resource to have. So hopefully it's something that incoming productions can then go through and actually provide great opportunities on things where the ball's already rolling. You know, they maybe been working on it for a couple of years and they're crewing up in Scotland, and maybe that you know, maybe a while down the line, once it's established, having a group that sort of spurs off it would be nice. Because I know with the New Voices social media thing,
Yeah.
it's a nice support, you know, just to sort of shout out opportunities and things like that. But something that's a little less, I don't know, I guess if you put a shout out on one of these Facebook groups, you get a whole lot of unsolicited replies, and you have a little less chance to just kind of consider it and see, you know, read profiles and things yourself. So I don't suppose there would be any rush, but yeah, it is quite crowded. I definitely know what you mean.
Yeah, no, it makes sense really, just to see if that's where the directory leads, and whether to make a group from the people on the directory. Yeah.
Maybe like a forum attached to it on the website would be interesting. Like go back to that kind of old kind of, you could have a thread and then people can add to it. Like I'd be up for that. But
I hope our website guy isn't listening. We'll be going, oh no, not another thing.
More.
Yeah.
I think Julia had, you wanted to say something, Julia?
Yes, yeah, sorry, I've got another meeting in a minute, but it's just to say that I came to the launch over a year ago, and it's amazing to see what's happened over the past year in spite of the pandemic and everyone being from home, and to feel this sense of community growing is really exciting, and I'm so pleased to be able to be part of that. And just to find out if there were any plans for in-person meetings like this, because kind of like Charlotte was talking about, I think the more we get to know each other as a group informally and regularly, those relationships build, and it feels really inclusive, which I think over time is a change that I've seen from my experience in the industry. And it would be lovely to just like keep that sort of metaphorical linking of arms and marching onwards. And so I'd love to meet more people informally with no pressure of like asking for a job, but just swapping ideas and tips on how you made it work. And yeah, thank you.
And because we're nice people.
Yes, yeah. We would totally be up for that. Totally. Yeah, once all the madness has passed and we can do that, definitely. I think, you know, a lot of people take for granted, I think, the support network that men have in the industry, because it's just, to them, it's just other men working in the industry. But women just don't have that, you know, they don't go on to a shoot and have a bunch of other women they can just chat very easily with and very openly with, and not feel kind of, you know, professional pressures. But yeah, we totally, wouldn't we, Noe? We'd be up for lots of...
Definitely, yeah. Get out of isolation.
Okay.
And I don't know, it's maybe just worth saying that, you know, in the past we have, through Zoom, we have had some kind of networking events, informal sort of networking. And we'd be up for doing something similar, I think, if people were interested or had any particular requests for how we do that. So, you know, we're open, and I guess just because we are SDI and we can maybe just get out to a few more people than individuals can. If we can help, again, just facilitate things, then let us know. Maybe we could try that again ourselves anyway, just see what happens. But there's definitely ways that we can help a little bit just through Zoom and just getting people together.
I mean, I guess so. I mean, we're talking about more women kind of, you know, directing and production, but we're also trying to, you know, celebrate kind of, you know, the films made by women, and by exhibiting them, by kind of, you know, doing master classes kind of, you know, with them, etc. I mean, we do try to attract kind of, you know, women to come into the debate and exchange. I mean, it might be kind of, you know, discussions which are kind of, you know, more linked to the profession, but nevertheless, I mean, by having female directors kind of talking and exhibiting their work, we encourage other female filmmakers to engage with that debate and come up with their questions, etc. So, I mean, for me, that's kind of, you know, really important. It's part and parcel of making films. It's also kind of exhibiting them, celebrating them, kind of, you know, and making sure that women are watching those films and engaging with other filmmakers.
It'd also be great to hear from, obviously, producers, there's a lot of women that do it, and you're encouraging filmmakers in particular. But those other job roles, you know, is there a sound designer? Is there, I guess, any job that you could pick? That it would be really inspiring to have conversations from crew and other like artistic heads of department, because it's all well and good plopping in a woman at the top and then just down below is you know, all the crew. It would be great to really find out what it's like to be a sound recordist, and you know, hear it from a woman, and have those kind of workshops would be really interesting.
Hi.
I've got, sorry, go on, Anne-Claire.
Sorry, I don't know. My name's Anne-Claire. I'm new to SDI. I've come from TV, and I just find this absolutely so fascinating and so exciting to hear you talk like this. And I mean, just in my own personal experience, I just had I'm on a WhatsApp group with some series producers, TV series producers, she was putting out a call saying, listen, I've tried everywhere. I've looked everywhere to try and find someone who is a woman who can direct things like a, you know, like a DOP, you know, who's kind of got a produce, you know, I'm just really struggling. And for me, and apologies if I've come to this quite late and you've had all these discussions, but for me, a lot of the issues to do with in TV is partly to do with the fact that, you know, the kind of tech savviness and the heaviness of the equipment almost that we as kind of as females producer directors are expected to kind of carry, and actually that has, you know, and as directors are expected to do more and more self shooting, it's hard to kind of to keep up to those increasingly high levels of production values that are expected of us, and actually just physically be able to kind of walk up, you know, carry the equipment. And for me, what would be super helpful would be some kind of, you know, someone, you know, if there is someone out there who's really kind of top of their game and knows kind of, you know, shortcuts for you know, maybe equipment that's slightly less heavy, that is, you know, that different, you know, like harnesses, whatever you can use, you know, that would be super useful as a director to kind of know, you know, to kind of spread that information. And I totally agree, women are very good at helping each other. And you know, and I'm sure that, you know, given the right forums and stuff, we would be good at kind of disseminating that information. But for me, that would be, I'd love to kind of practically know how to overcome some of those issues.
I mean, I think you're quite right to bring up technology, I mean, and equipment, Anne-Claire, because it's always been a struggle for female filmmakers. You know, so the cameras and all the equipment was very bulky and very heavy. I mean, it's getting better as, you know, with new technology, but at the same time, the pressure is kind of, you know, also stronger, because you know, you need to be everything. You need to direct, you need to be DOP, and you need to kind of do sound. And you've got to do extremely well if you kind of, you know, women, in order to get your next gig. So I think, yeah, there are plenty of kind of stories to be shared there. But also, I mean, another story kind of heard from, you know, people working at in television is, and I think BBC especially, kind of, you know, where you've got a lot of women who are kind of assistant producers or researchers, working as directors, but never really getting a contract as directors. And that's, you know, so you're doing the job kind of, you know, under a different title, which is a real problem, because you never get not only the financial recognition, but also the credit kind of, you know, attached to that. And I don't know, Anne-Claire, if you've come across that in your career.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I'm not 100% up to speed with what's happening right now in that area, but I mean, I do remember like the BBC were pretty bad at keeping APs at AP level for like basically doing PD jobs for a very long time. Yeah, I agree.
think it's a whole separate issue, concertinaing all the jobs together as well. That's one of the things that kind of drove me away from TV at the beginning. You know, I was like, well, AP, yeah, I can do this. This is great. Oh, okay, next job, you want me to shoot it. Oh, and you would want me to direct it. And oh, and for the same money, yeah, it's that kind of increasing expectation of what will be produced for the same money and in the same time. And I had the thought as well, like I would have loved to have worked in camera. And I remember mentally seeing the guy with his big porta brace thing and just thinking, I'm not going to be able to do that. That's, you know, how unfortunate I was born a woman. I won't be able to carry that all day. It's really tough. And you'd think with technology that, I don't know if they have, and Claire, if they've got lists of accepted cameras and things like this for all of the broadcasters, but you'd hope that you could hit the specs that they need with smaller, lighter equipment, and maybe that kind of thing does need to be looked at as well.
I think often the cameras are difficult to negotiate, but there'll be, you know, there'll be hacks, there'll be things that you can do, you know, there'll be and I just, you know, I'd love to hear from more experienced self-shooters about how they kind of they manage that, you know, someone who's like basically a DOP, female DOP. It'd be great to kind of get that you know, it's just so I mean, I do think that, I mean, I recently didn't shoot something because although I was kind of director in the edit, because I just don't, I'm not a kind of DOP level self shooter, and there's a lot of blokes who are, you know. And I'm not the only person I know. I mean, I have friends of mine who were quite senior in TV who just had to stop directing because they couldn't keep up with just the expectations of the level of self shooting that you were supposed to shoot for that, you know, for the network, and just couldn't physically keep up with the work that was asked of them. You know, they're good self shooters, but they weren't shooting it like a DOP, and they didn't have the strength to actually do, you know, what was asked of them. And I'm sure all of it would have been hackable. You know, there would have been ways around it, but they just weren't. They didn't have the. They didn't know who to turn to or how to find out how to do it. You know.
That's really interesting, and Claire, and something that I've not seen in any of the research either for the things that stop women directing. So I might have to look into that. But it sounds like it could be another great coffee morning discussion, actually, if we get some self-shooters who are female and talk to them about what they're doing. But I'll maybe do some research as well on that.
It's about, it's not like, I mean, I don't have trouble getting that, like, you know, my shooting is good, you know, it's good enough for certain things. But if I wanted to shoot on something like, you know, the CSI series on BBC, I mean, that was what my friend was looking for an excellent female DOP, because, you know, it's about forensics, and it's about, you know, you're speaking to victims of crimes, and having a female director would be ideal for that, you know, because it's often sexual crimes and things like that. So you want someone who's not going to intimidate your contributors. But she just really struggled to find someone who was like a DOP level self shooter, you know, who was just going to give it that edge. And I can understand why that happens, because the equipment to be at that level is just really heavy and difficult to negotiate.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll end it there. Thanks again, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.